Well, hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Colley, and I'm president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. It's great to be with you all today. That was a really interesting panel that we just wrapped up, and we've got some more in store for you this afternoon. At the foundation, our mission is to educate the public on how business does well, does good, and prepares for the future. And that is just really coming together in this conference today. It's one of the biggest conferences in the country and on the topic. And so a big hats off to my colleagues at the Corporate Citizenship Center for putting this together. I think with more than 1,000 people logged on, if you care about corporate citizenship, this is the place to be today. You know, at the foundation, we come to work every day, or I guess it's these days we log on every day, because we believe in the power of business as a problem solver and as a trusted partner, as a change agent and a community leader. And it's that word that I just used, trust, that might be the most decisive and important word that we'll talk about today. It's what underpins confidence and civility and prosperity. We heard that earlier today from Larry Fink in his opening interview as well. So it's a big theme for us here at the foundation. I'm really thrilled today to be joined by Joe Ucuzoglu. He's the CEO of Deloitte US, and we're going to talk about trust in business. You know, as CEO of Deloitte US, what that means is that Joe oversees the largest professional services organization in the country. More than 100,000 people, really smart people who are bringing their best thinking and bias for action to give it advice and leadership to other companies and organizations like ours today. Joe's been a remarkable leader at Deloitte US, and under his leadership, Deloitte has really taken the charge to solve some of the biggest challenges facing our communities. He's really using Deloitte's power as a force for good, and it's made Deloitte one of the most trusted organizations in the country and in the world. So it's great to have him here today, not in the middle of just one crisis and not even two, but 3 or more crises happening at one time. I'm eager to dig into this conversation. So welcome.
Carolyn, it's wonderful to be here. Privileged to be a part of this wonderful event. And all of us at Deloitte are certainly very proud to be at the forefront of demonstrating how business can, in fact, be a source of good in our communities.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about at this conference. Now, Joe, I want to start with a broad question about trust, and then we'll drill down a little bit to employees and consumers. But just broadly, why is trust so important, and what does it mean to you as a leader?
Trust right now is unfortunately at a deficit in society. This is a polarizing time. We are in need of institutions and leaders that can bring us together. And it's very clear that people are looking more and more to their employer for functions that one might have historically looked to the government, the media, a multitude of other institutions. And so as a result, being able to instill trust is core to leading a company these days. And I actually view it as the price of admission to getting anything done. If you use COVID as an example, it was imperative that as business leaders that we were a trusted source of credible information for our people, and that we were forthright throughout about the gravity of the situation, the potential impact on the economy, on our customers, and laying that foundation and building that credibility is what has then allowed us to have a more aspirational conversation around some of the shifts that are taking place that actually will drive a lot of good in society. But you can't have that conversation. You can't share an aspirational vision unless you've established trust and credibility to begin with.
Well, that's so interesting. I think that, when we think about the pandemic, and someone said early on that we've had, 10 years of change in, at that point, 6 or 8 weeks when this person said that, just everything has been accelerated. And if we're to have hope of getting people on board and maintaining optimism toward a future, it really does come down to trust. I want to talk specifically about employees and internally at a company under leadership like yours. As we're shifting to, more remote work and work from home and different technologies, how do those are they barriers to building trust, or how do we build trust differently with employees in this kind of environment?
I don't know that I'd say it's a barrier. I'd say that the approach has had to evolve as we've moved through the various phases. So if I think back to the earliest days of the pandemic and many organizations shifting to a primarily virtual work model, that was a huge opportunity to demonstrate to all of our people that we are putting their health and their safety first, whether through remote work or for those organizations where individuals do need to be in person, investing in the right type of infrastructure to prioritize safety. And the fact that employees saw us as business leaders do that, that is a big reason why employee trust in their companies is up. Now, over the past few months, I think we've moved to what I'll call the resilience phase, where as the situation has dragged on, as the stresses of being isolated and unable to be together with our colleagues and with our clients in the ways that many of us have traditionally thrived on, that's taken a toll. It's taken a toll on well-being. There are certainly mental health challenges. And again, we've had the opportunity to step up and support our people through that very difficult time. And when I look forward, and I actually am more and more confident that there is a forward, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, when we get past COVID, I think we're going to have yet another opportunity to demonstrate to our employees that we are not simply reverting back to the old way, but that there's a lot of learnings that have come out of this. There's a lot of benefits in terms of what's worked relative to flexibility that we can combine in a hybrid model to allow some of that to continue, while at the same time allowing our people where it matters, where it's impactful, to get back together in person with each other, to get back together with clients, and to demonstrate frankly, a much more exciting and aspirational hybrid future of work than what people are accustomed to historically. And I think that's exciting for our people.
Well, your excitement is really infectious. I'm really glad to hear that you're optimistic. There's probably nothing more I crave than being back together with colleagues, and we know that's going to look different. Let's turn for a minute to consumers and customers. You've talked a lot about the leadership involved in bringing an organization to a new level, but what about consumer confidence and consumer trust, and how that translates into buying behaviors, or being a consumer? How does trust work in that equation?
Well, you certainly saw a drop-off in the springtime on into the summer as the brunt of the pandemic took hold. But even there was not sort of one uniform reaction across the entirety of the economy. There was a bifurcation. So those things that are most in-person human interaction centric took the biggest drop. But there are other areas that saw a boom. So those companies that have invested in digital, that have been able to engage with customers using technology, actually saw a very significant increase in demand. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all story. And as I look at where we're at today and where we're likely headed going forward, I would say that, once again, there's sort of two different tales here. There's the short term and there's the long term. In the short term, if we are realistic and credible, going back to that theme of trust, we all have to acknowledge that we're probably in for a difficult few months here. And some of the behaviors that we saw early in the pandemic may recur as authorities implement new restrictions on mobility and gatherings. But that is the short term. Over the medium term, I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. I do see some real positive developments here between the sort of the overhang of people wondering how it would be to conduct an election in a virtual model with the logistical challenges and being able to do that relatively smoothly, and then followed by some of the significant scientific breakthroughs that we have seen over the past week or so. There is a growing optimism that over the months of 2021, we will gradually get to a much better place. And I actually think that's going to result in an increase in confidence and an increase in optimism, because it at least allows for a platform upon which to plan and some greater level of certainty here. Certainty is the twin of trust, I think, right?
We've talked about building back better, let's say, and I'm in complete agreement that we all hope to get to a more optimistic day of trust in the economy and in employers. I think we also all agree that we need to do a better job of creating benefits and positive outcomes for everyone, right? Not just a few people. And, at the foundation, something that the reason we get out of bed is because we believe that a job is one of the most important things to a family, to a community, and that we need to create more opportunities for more people. Can you talk about, in the new, more optimistic environment and community, what can we be doing to make sure that we're more inclusive and getting more people on the path to opportunity?
This is essential, and it really lies at the heart of the movement to embrace stakeholder capitalism. And so you're seeing businesses come together with governments to really lay out a platform around investing in education, investing in infrastructure. I would commend the Chamber as well as you at the foundation for doing a lot of the groundwork to build up a bipartisan support for what are common sense policies to make sure that we're lifting up all communities here. And, when we talk about infrastructure, it's not just sort of physical infrastructure. There's a huge element of ensuring equitable access to technology, of ensuring the consistency of access to broadband. You're seeing that in an education context right now with virtual school, certainly relevant to making certain that a lot of the tech-oriented jobs of tomorrow are accessible to all communities. And again, I'm pretty proud of, when I look at the efforts of, Deloitte and many other organizations like ours that are coming together, partnering with governments, focused on upskilling and making certain that we actually do have an inclusive prosperity coming out of this.
It's so important. Thank you for everything that Deloitte does to create kind of that optimism and engagement with not only your employees and your clients, but for the communities that you work in as well. I think that you're a great role model. I know that we're out of time, but let me just ask you with a quick yes or no question. If we're sitting here a year from now, assuming things are different, what would make you most proud to see in your company or in the economy?
We'll be in a much better place in terms of having controlled the pandemic by that point in time. And you're seeing that in terms of the optimism reflected in the financial markets. When you look at the past couple of weeks between the relatively smooth election coupled with the scientific advances, that is being priced in and resulting in a much greater level of confidence that if you look a year out, that we will be in a far better place than we are today.
Well, I hope so. And I hope you'll come back and talk to us again in a year and we'll revisit this conversation.
I will look forward to it. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Joe.